Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. This is your boy Atmos Love. Just wanted to do a quick live really quick because I wanted to go ahead and get through this indictment. Like I said, I wanted to come from understanding exactly what happened in this case and the details before we go ahead and start doing the live reenactment of this trial. Yesterday they had the jury selection. I believe opening statement started yesterday evening. Also, as y'all know, we're in the middle of the R. Kelly trial. So reading that reenactment, which we will be here tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Good morning, everybody. Jennifer, Eva, Angela Anderson. Good morning, Bev Davis. How y'all doing? So y'all, I just want to read through this really quick. And then we're going to close down this live, but I wanted y'all to just kind of get the nuts and bolts of the legal process dealing with this case, because it is definitely insane when you look at all of the things and all of the different pieces that come together to bring this thing to where we are. Okay, so this right here is his indictment, y'all. Let me just make sure y'all can see this, and let me minimize it. Let me bring it in a little bit. Hold one moment. So we're all on the same page here. Here we go. Okay, so this is his indictment, y'all. This is from, let's see here. This was filed on 8/20/2020. So this is his indictment. As you all can see, this is United States of America versus James Timothy Norman, Terica Tanisha Ellis, and looks like Wael Rebhi Yagnam are the defendants. So here's the introduction of the indictment. The grand jury charges that at all times relevant to this indictment, Andre Montgomery was born on October 14th, 1994. Andre Montgomery's parental uncle was James Timothy Norman. So it looks like the young man that was killed by his uncle, his name was Andre Montgomery. Good morning, Tears. Good morning, Shirley McAdams. Good morning, I'm a Queen. Good morning, y'all. Andre Montgomery's father, the brother of James Timothy Norman, died in Los Angeles, California in 1994. Andre Montgomery's Missouri non-driver's license indicated that his height was 5'11" and his weight was 185 pounds. At no point did Andre Montgomery ever seek or obtain medical treatment at the People's Health Center. In August of 2014, Andre Montgomery completed a housing inspection in which he indicated that he was employed at a shop called Tobacco Road, that his hourly wage was $7.25, and that in that month of July, he had earned $696.47. So this is count one of this indictment, which was the murder for hire conspiracy, 18 U.S.C. and 1958. It says beginning at a time unknown to the grand jury, but up to and including March 14th of 2016, and through the date of this indictment within the Eastern District of Missouri and elsewhere. Give me one moment. Let me pull my camera up and let me put it over here to the side. There we go. All right. So it says here that James Timothy Norman and Terica Tanisha Ellis, together with other persons known and unknown to the grand jury, did knowingly and intentionally combine, conspire, and agree to commit an offense against the United States of America, to wit, the crime of murder for hire in violation of Title 18. This is a real murder for hire, y'all. A real murder for hire. United States Code Section 1958, by using and causing others to use facilities of interstate commerce, to wit, cellular telephones, with the intent that the murder of Andre Montgomery be committed in violation of laws in the state of Missouri, as consideration for the receipt of, and as consideration for the promise and agreement to pay things of, pecuniary value, namely money, among with other benefits, said conspiracy offense resulting in the death of Andre Montgomery on March 14th of 2016. Object and pursue. Object and purpose. The objects and purposes of the conspiracy were the murder of Andre Montgomery, the nephew of James Timothy Norman, and the obtaining of money as a result of and in exchange for the commission of Andre Montgomery's murder. So pretty much he was murdered for money. He was murdered. His uncle obviously was getting greedy and killed him to get insurance money. Pretty much, right? And you would think he had money. He's on an extremely successful show on Oprah's network. You know, I'm sure if he would have put a buzz in Oprah's ear like, hey, you know, can I get a loan or something? Because if not, I'm going to go ahead and kill my nephew. I'm sure she would have been like, bruh, here. Like, that's pennies to her. But I don't know. Means and methods. The means and methods by which the conspiracy was sought to be accomplished included, among other things, the following. A. It was part of the conspiracy that on October 14th of 2014, James Timothy Norman attempted to obtain a $250,000 life insurance policy on his 20-year-old nephew, Andre Montgomery, for which James Timothy Norman was the sole, you see this, sole beneficiary through Americo Financial Life and Immunity Insurance Company. The application was later withdrawn. That is crazy. It says B. It was further part of the conspiracy that on October 31st, 2014, James Timothy Norman attempted to obtain a second life insurance policy on Andre Montgomery in the amount of $200,000, in addition to an accidental death rider in the amount of $200,000 and a 10-year term rider in the amount of $50,000. Y'all, that is a total of $450,000. Now, with those term riders, like they have those like temporary insurance policy, they call them short term, where if somebody dies in an accident or something like that, then you get the money, you know, as long as it's within that 10 years. It says here, through the independent order of foresters, hereinafter forester policy, James Timothy Norman was the sole beneficiary of this policy. So he made sure that ain't nobody else gonna get the money but him. This is the only policy that issued. It was further part of the conspiracy that on March 16, 2015, James Timothy Norman attempted to obtain a replacement policy on Andre Montgomery through Royal Neighbors of America in the amount of $249,999, but the application was denied. It was further part of the conspiracy that the applications for all three of these life insurance applications on Andre Montgomery contained false information regarding Andre Montgomery's income, occupation, and family history. It says it was further part of the conspiracy that on or about March 10th of 2016, Terica Tanisha Ellis traveled from Memphis, Tennessee to St. Louis, Missouri. It is further part of the conspiracy that James Timothy Norman flew from Los Angeles, California to St. Louis, Missouri, and arrived in St. Louis, Missouri on March 14th of 2016. It was further part of the conspiracy that on or about March 14, 2016, James Timothy Norman and Terica Tanisha Ellis purchased prepaid track phone cellular devices at a Walgreens located in Central West End neighborhood of the city of St. Louis. It was further part of the conspiracy that James Timothy Norman and Terica Tanisha Ellis communicated with one another for the duration of March 14, 2016, using the newly purchased prepaid cellular devices. That is crazy, y'all. So they bought the track phones trying to be undetected, and they still got the information. It was further part of the conspiracy that Terica Tanisha Ellis advised Andre Montgomery to initiate all further communication with her on March 14, 2016, using her newly purchased prepaid cellular device. It was further part of the conspiracy that Terica Tanisha Ellis communicated with Andre Montgomery throughout the day on March 14, 2016, for the purpose of determining his whereabouts. They did a whole lot on March 14th. Man, they did a lot. They did their best to make sure this thing came together, right? It says it was further part of the conspiracy that Terica Tanisha Ellis used her prepaid cellular service to communicate Andre Montgomery's locations to James Timothy Norman and or co-conspirators throughout the day on March 14, 2016. It was further part of the conspiracy that at approximately 7:07 p.m. Central Standard Time on March 14, 2016, Andre Montgomery texted his location 3964 Natural Bridge to Terica Tanisha Ellis on her newly purchased prepaid cellular device. It was further part of the conspiracy that immediately upon learning Andre Montgomery's location, Terica Tanisha Ellis relayed that address to James Timothy Norman and or other co-conspirators. It is further part of the conspiracy that Terica Tanisha Ellis met Andre Montgomery at 3964 Natural Bridge Avenue in the city of St. Louis at approximately 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on March 14, 2016, for the purpose of luring Andre Montgomery outside of the residence. My goodness. It is also, it was further part of the conspiracy that a co-conspirator shot and killed Andre Montgomery in front of the residence at 3964 Natural Bridge Avenue at approximately 8:02 p.m. Central Standard Time. It was further part of the conspiracy that at 8:03 p.m., Terica Tanisha Ellis called James Timothy Norman on his newly purchased prepaid cellular device, then immediately began driving back to her home in Memphis, Tennessee. It was further part of the conspiracy that approximately 5.5 hours after the homicide, in the early morning hours of March 15, 2016, James Timothy Norman flew back to Los Angeles, California. It was further part of the conspiracy that in March 15, 2016, James Timothy Norman and Terica Tanisha Ellis ceased all use of their prepaid cellular devices. It was further part of the conspiracy that between March 15, 2016 and March 17, 2016, Terica Tanisha Ellis deposited over $9,000 in cash into multiple bank accounts in Memphis, Tennessee. It was further part of the conspiracy that on March 18, 2016, Will Reby Yagnam and James Timothy Norman contacted the independent order of foresters for the purpose of inquiring about how to collect the aforementioned foresters policy. It was part of the conspiracy that in or about March 15th, Terica Tanisha Ellis flew to Los Angeles, California and met with James Timothy Norman during her stay there. It was further part of the conspiracy that James Timothy Norman continued to contact the Independent Order of Foresters on March 21st, 2016, August 1st, 2016, August 15th of 2016, August 26th of 2016, and November 18th of 2016 for the purpose of continuing or attempting to collect on the aforementioned foresters policy. It was further part of the conspiracy that in September 18th, James Timothy Norman retained counsel who sent a letter to the Independent Order for Foresters demanding that they pay out the aforementioned. So not only did he file a false insurance claim, but he got a lawyer to make sure they paid. Like, he gonna force it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It was further part of the conspiracy that in October 18th, James Timothy Norman submitted an affidavit to the Independent Order of Forces for the purpose of collecting on the aforementioned policy in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1958. Count 2, murder for hire. The grand jury further charges that on or about March 14, 2016, in the city of St. Louis, within the Eastern District of Missouri, James Timothy Norman and Terica Tanisha Ellis, the defendants herein, used and caused others to use facilities of interstate commerce, to wit, cellular telephones, with the intent that the murder of Andre Montgomery he committed in violation of laws in the state of Missouri, as consideration for the receipt of and consideration for a promise and agreed to pay things of, I'm going to get the word right sooner or later, y'all. I think it's pecuniary value, namely money, among with other benefits. Said offense resulted in the death of Andre Montgomery on March 14, 2016, in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1958. Count 3, wire and mail fraud conspiracy. The allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 6 are realleged and incorporated herein, beginning in or about October 2014 and continuing until at least as late as September 2019 in the Eastern District of Missouri and elsewhere. James Timothy Norman and Walil Regpi Yagnam, the defendants herein, did voluntarily and intentionally combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with each other and others known and unknown to the grand jury to commit the following offense against the United States. A, having devised and intended to devise a scheme to obtain money and property by means of materially false and fraudulent pretenses and representations, and for the purpose of executing such scheme and attempting to do so. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate that. Thank you. Did knowingly cause and attempt to cause to be transmitted by means of wire communication in interstate commerce, writing, signs, and signals in the form of interstate international telephone calls, all in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1343. Having devised and intended to devise a scheme to obtain money and property by means of materially false and fraudulent pretenses and representations, and for the purpose of executing such scheme and attempted to do so, did knowingly cause and attempt to cause documents to be sent or delivered by any private or commercial interstate carrier, or knowingly cause to be delivered by mail or such carrier according to the direction therein, in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1341. All in violation of Title 18, United States Code, Section 1349. Manner and means. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to effect the illegal objects thereof, defendants James Timothy Norman and Walil Regpi Yagnam and others known and unknown to the grand jury used the following ways, manner, and means, among others, to commit wire fraud and mail fraud. The primary purpose of the conspiracy was for James Timothy Norman, aided and abetted by Walil, to obtain and to be able to collect on life insurance policy on his nephew, Andre Montgomery, to obtain and to be able to collect on life insurance policy on his nephew, Andre Montgomery, in the event of Montgomery's death by means of false and fraudulent representations regarding Montgomery's income, employment, net worth, medical history, family history, and the existence of other pending life insurance applications. Americo Life Insurance Application. On October 14, 2014, James Timothy Norman and Walil caused to be completed and then submitted an application to Americo Financial Life and Immunity Insurance Company here in Americo. by which application James Timothy Norman sought a life insurance policy in the amount of $250,000 on his nephew, Andre Montgomery. On October 14, 2014, James Timothy Norman signed the following attestation passage in the Americo Life Insurance application. Here's a footnote. Any person who knowingly presents a false or fraudulent claim for payment of loss or benefit or knowingly presents false information in an application for insurance is guilty of the crime and may be subject to fines and confinement in prison. We have read this application and represent to Americo that the statements made in the applications are true, complete, and correctly recorded to the best of my/our knowledge and belief. I and we agree that Americo can rely on these statements. On October 14, 2014, signed and following attestation passage in James Timothy's testimony, Americo Life Insurance application stated as follows: I hereby certify that I have personally asked each question on this application to the proposed insurers, and I have truly and accurately recorded on the application and the information supplied by him or her, and that I have no reason to believe that any of the information provided is inaccurate or incomplete. If not, I have set forth my reservations in the agent comments marked sections above. James Timothy Norman and Willil indicated that in Americo Life Insurance application that James Timothy Norman would be the sole beneficiary of the policy in the event of Andre Montgomery's death. Oh my gosh. Just to take out a life insurance policy out of nowhere on your nephew, that should have raised all kind of red flags right there. James Timothy Norman and Willil represented in Americo Life Insurance application that James Timothy Norman would pay the monthly premium of $156.04 from his U.S. bank account ending in 7746. James Timothy Norman and Willil falsely represented in the Americo Life Insurance application that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $100,000. Wow. Y'all, this boy only made $7.25 an hour, and he made $696, I believe they said, a month, and they said that he made $100,000 a year? Unbelievable. James Timothy Norman and Willil falsely represented that Andre Montgomery's height was 5'7", and his weight was 165 pounds. James Timothy Norman and Willil represented that Andre Montgomery was not under the care of a physician. Okay? Between October 16, 2014 and November 30, 2014, representatives of Americo repeatedly attempted to contact James Timothy Norman and Willil via email and telephone with questions regarding the life insurance application, including the reason that Andre Montgomery could not own the life insurance policy rather than James Timothy Norman. On December 8, 2014, they started having questions. On December 8, 2014, after James Timothy Norman had obtained a life insurance policy from a separate insurance policy, he and Willil withdrew the Americo Life Insurance application, which was still pending at the time. Forrester's life insurance application. On October 31st, 2014, James Timothy Norman and Willil caused to be completed and then submitted an application to independent order of Forrester's, herein Forrester's, by which application James Timothy Norman sought a life insurance policy in the amount of $200,000 as well as an accidental death rider in the amount of $200,000 and the 10-year term rider of $50,000 on his nephew. So he tried to have all different bases covered, whether he died by accident, whether he died by murder, whether he died by suicide. Like, he had it covered every which way. The $200,000 accidental death rider would pay out in the event that Andre Montgomery died of something other than natural causes. There we go. The 50,000 10-year term rider would pay out in the event that Andre Montgomery died within 10 years of the policy's issuance. Okay. And on October 31st, 2014, James Timothy Norman signed and followed attestation passage in the Forester's life insurance application. I, as evidenced by my signature in this application, declare that I have reviewed the application. I was asked every question that applies to me and provided in the answers shown in this application to these questions. These statements, answers, and representations contained in the applications are full, complete, and true to the best of my knowledge and belief. On October 31st, 2014, Walil signed the following attestation passage in James Timothy Norman's Forester's life insurance application, stated as follows. Unless specifically stated otherwise, in the producer report, I certify each of the following. I am not aware of undisclosed information about the health, habits, or lifestyle of the proposed insured or a child identified in this application that might affect insurability. I personally met with and proposed insured owner with each child and reviewed the document used to identify identity and birth date. I asked the proposed insured, the parent, and a legal guardian if the proposed insured is a juvenile and or owner of each question as written in the application, to which an answer is shown, and recorded the answers as given to me by each person. This application was reviewed by each person signing the signature section before it was signed by the person. James Timothy Norman and Walil indicated in the Forester's life insurance policy that James Timothy Norman would be the sole beneficiary in the policy in the event of Andre Montgomery's death. James Timothy Norman and Walil represented in Forester's life insurance application that James Timothy Norman would pay the monthly premium of $185.16 out of that same bank account ending in 7746. On October 31st, 2014, James Timothy Norman and Walil represented in the Forester's life insurance application that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $28,000, despite having represented in October 2014, that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $100,000 in the Americo life insurance application. That's a huge switch up right there. Wow. James Timothy Norman falsely represented in the Forester's life insurance application that Andre Montgomery had a net worth of $200,000. Wow. James Timothy Norman falsely indicated in the Forester's life insurance application that his relationship with Andre Montgomery was both as his uncle and his employer, when in fact James Timothy Montgomery had no employment relationship with Andre Montgomery. James Timothy Norman falsely indicated in the Forester's life insurance application that Andre Montgomery's father was living 42 years old and healthy. In fact, Andre Montgomery's father, the brother of James Timothy Norman, had died in 1994. Wow. So he said that the father was still living and healthy, and the father was already dead. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. James Timothy Norman and falsely represented in the Forester's life insurance application that Andre Montgomery had received a regular checkup from the attending physician at the People's Health Clinic in December of 2013. James Timothy Norman and Rabbi falsely represented in the Forester's life insurance application that there was no life insurance application pending, which they did have one pending, that they had just let one go from their other life insurance company, for the purposes insured with Forester's and another insurer, when in fact the Americo life insurance application submitted by James Norman and was still pending. Wow. On November 6, 2014, Forester's issued a life insurance policy on Andre Montgomery with a face amount of $200,000, an accidental death rider of $200,000, and a 10-year term rider of $50,000. James Timothy Norman was the policy owner and sole beneficiary. Unbelievable. Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application. On March 16, 2015, James Timothy Norman and Will caused to be completed an application to Royal Neighbors of America, hereinafter Royal Neighbors, by which application James Timothy Norman sought a life insurance policy in the amount of $249,999, as well as an accidental death rider in the amount of $249,999 on his nephew Andre Montgomery. The $249,999 accidental death rider would pay out in the event that Andre Montgomery died of something other than natural causes. Policies with the face amount or rider amount under $250,000 did not require the insured to have a physical examination in connect. Oh, wow. They thought they was slick. So if it was over or 250,000, then they would have needed to require a physical examination of Andre Montgomery. But since they did it for $249,999, that is crazy. On March 16, 2015, James Timothy Norman signed an acknowledgement on the Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application that any person who knowingly represents a false statement in the application for insurance may be guilty of criminal offense and subject to penalties under the law. On March 16, 2015, Will Rogme signed the attestation in the Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application, indicating that he had personally reviewed the ID of the proposed insured, Andre Montgomery. James Timothy Norman and Will indicated in the Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application that James Timothy Norman would be the sole beneficiary in the life insurance policy in the event of James Montgomery's death. James Timothy Norman and Will indicated in the Neighbors Royal Life Insurance application that James Timothy would pay the monthly premium of $187.06. So they just went from all these different life insurance policies and threw everything at the wall just to see who would bite. That is insane. On March 16th, James Timothy Norman and Will Yagnem represented in Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $50,000. So they went from the boy make $100,000 a year to the boy make $28,000 a year to now he makes $50,000 a year. Despite having represented in the Amico Life Insurance application on October 14, 2014, that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $100,000, and in the Foresters Life Insurance application on August 31st, 2014, that Andre Montgomery had an annual income of $28,000. James Timothy Norman falsely represented in the Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application that Andre Montgomery had a net worth of $200,000. James Timothy Norman falsely indicated in the Royal Neighbors Life Insurance application that his relationship to Andre Montgomery was both as his uncle and his employer, when in fact James Timothy Norman had no employment relationship with Andre Montgomery. James Timothy Norman and Will falsely represented that Andre Montgomery had received an annual checkup for the attendant physician at People's Choice Centers in September of 2014, despite the fact that Andre Montgomery had never been seen or treated at the clinic. On March 17, 2015, Will transmitted the life insurance application to Royal Neighbors via Facsimile. The Royal Neighbors policy ultimately did not issue. Conspirators' attempts to collect on the Foresters' life insurance policy. On March 18, 2016, following the murder, March 18, 2016, following the murder of Andre Montgomery on March 14th of 2016, whoa. So on March 18, 2016, following the murder of Andre Montgomery on March 14th, so he was murdered on the 14th, and 4 days later, his uncles is trying to take out this false. Damn. Will placed two telephone calls to Forrester seeking to file a claim of the life insurance policy for James Timothy Norman owned by Andre Montgomery. On March 21st, 2016, James Montgomery Norman contacted Forrester twice by telephone seeking to file a claim of the life insurance policy that had taken out Andre Montgomery. On March 30th, 2016, placed a phone call to Forrester's lasting 10 minutes and 2 seconds. Dang! 10 minutes and 2 seconds. On May 21st, 2016, James Timothy Norman submitted to Forrester's via U.S. mail a written claim of his life insurance policy on Andre Montgomery. On June 6, 2016, Timothy Norman, received a letter via U.S. mail from Forrester indicating that Forrester still had not received the finalized policy, toxicology, and coroner's reports necessary in order to process this claim on the life insurance policy. Between August 16th of 2016 and November 2016, James Timothy Norman repeatedly contacted Forrester's in connection with his attempt to claim the life insurance policy. In or about September of 2018, James Timothy Norman retained an attorney to represent him in connection with his attempt to claim the Forrester's life insurance policy. That attorney subsequently sent a letter to Forrester's indicating that James Timothy Norman had authorized the attorney to file a lawsuit for failure to promptly pay the life insurance claim. On September 26, 2019, Forrester sent James Timothy Norman a letter via U.S. mail advising James Timothy Norman that as of the date of the letter, Forrester still had not received all the documentation required to adjudicate his claim for the life insurance policy, all in violation of Title 18, a true bill. Y'all, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. Wow, so there you have it. There you have it, y'all. Unbelievable. Like, how you could do this to your own family member. Like, they really, 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 like, was it that? I mean, that show was pretty successful. The Sweetie Pie show. And you would think that it was $200,000, $250,000. Was that worth you killing your nephew? You was too damn desperate. You went to 3 different life insurance places. That is insane. That is totally insane. Yeah, we're gonna dig into this, y'all. I'm gonna read more documents. That was the first indictment on him. We're gonna read more. Like I said, we will be covering this trial over here with the live reenactment as we are currently doing with the R. Kelly case. That is the NDIL in Chicago right now. So for those of you that are new to the channel, please subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you get all my notifications on following this Tim Norman murder trial. And also, if you want to tune in tonight at 9 o'clock, we're going to be doing a live reenactment for the R. Kelly trial. We'd love to have you come in and just kind of see how we are bringing it to life and actually bringing people into the courtroom for the comforts of their own homes. Okay? So, y'all, thank y'all very much for coming in. I got to go to work now. I will be on later on to cover some more. But this was crazy, you know. And that lady, Sweetie, she is such a sweet lady. I hated to see her go through this, you know, especially with family. But you'll be there tonight? Okay, thank you, KLove92. That's awesome. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all later. I love y'all. God bless. Peace out.